welcome back to another video. This is going to be my 2023 reading wrap up. I read 39 books this year, and then one book I read twice. So 38 different books and one book twice. This is like the third time I've tried to film this because every time I ramble too much about the book. I'm going to try to stay quick, short, and to the point. I'm not going to try to tell you the story. I'm just going to summarize very quickly. Also, it's not in order. Sorry. I'll do one stack, and then I'll do my books I either don't have here because they're at college or my Kindle reads, and then I'll do this stack. I read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber this year. I read this towards the end of the year, and I thought it was really good. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was the perfect mix of fairy tale and romance, fantasy. I thought this was really good. I'm so excited to read the next two, but they're not out in paperback yet, so I'm gonna wait. Also didn't realize that the Caraval series by her is a prequel to this series, so I will eventually get that and read it, probably before I read the next two, just so I'm fully caught up. But yes, this was very good. Another book I read towards the end of the year was The Chase by Elle Kennedy. This is the first book in the Briar U series. So she has the off-campus series and then the Briar U, and the Briar U is the younger boys that were mentioned in the off-campus books. So this one was about Summer and Colin. They called him Fitzy. So if you've read Off Campus, it's Fitzy. And then Summer is Dean's little sister. So she comes to Briar and needs a roommate, and so she lives with 3 of the hockey boys, and then her and Fitzy they've been attracted to each other, but they ignore it because they don't really think they're each other's type. And I thought it was pretty good. I liked the off-campus series better, but I'm gonna finish the rest of this series because I have it. But I did think it was good, and it was fun to be back in the Briar U world. This book I read in July, and it was Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is one of my favorite books that I read this past year. I thought it was perfect. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I want to read it again and annotate it because I did not. But I just thought it was perfect. It's about these 6 best friends, and 2 of them were engaged, and then they called it off but didn't tell the best friends, and they all go on vacation together. So they decide to fake being engaged. It's perfect because it also focused on the girls' friendships and growing up and moving on and everything changing. And so I read it right before I went to college, and so I was oh, such a good time. I'm glad I read it when I did. It did take place, they went on a vacation, but I thought this was really good, and I'm so glad I read this year. And I just love Emily Henry, and I can't wait for her new book, Funny Story. This book I read in November, and I was so excited when I heard it was coming out, but I was also nervous that it wasn't going to compare to the off-campus series, but it's The Graham Effect. So I thought it was so good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, or 4.5 out of 5 stars. One of those two. But this one is about Gigi and Ryder, and so they both play hockey, kind of make a little alliance to help each other out. So Ryder helps Gigi learn some skills in hockey that she wasn't stronger in, and then Luke Ryder, that's his name, Luke Ryder, wants Gigi to put in a good word for him to her dad. So her dad's a famous hockey player, and he runs a camp, and Luke Ryder wants to work for the camp, and so he wants her to put in a good word. And so Gigi is the daughter of the couple from the first book in the off-campus series. It's kind of confusing if you haven't read the off-campus series, but I thought this was so good, and I was so surprised. I liked this better than The Chase, but it wasn't my favorite Elle Kennedy book, but it's up there. It's up there. So I read this in January in 2023, and it's the off-campus series. It's the one I've just mentioned a few times. It's the first series by her in this hockey Briar U world. And so the first one is The Deal, and this is the book that I read twice this year because I just love it. I think it's so good. Garrett and Hannah form an alliance, a deal, kind of like their daughter and Luke did. But he wants Hannah to tutor him so he can do good in school and stay on the hockey team. But Hannah at first is I don't know. But then he's I'll help you get the guy you want if you tutor me. So she's okay. And it is literally perfect. And ignore the cover. They have new covers now, but when I got these, they did not. I would definitely recommend buying the new covers too. They're so cute. They're cartoon. I rated this 5 out of 5 stars. This was my favorite Elle Kennedy book out of all of them. I just love it. I think, and one of the things I liked about this is it wasn't just romance. There was depth to it, and both the characters had their past struggles, and like they like helped each other out, and I just think it's perfect, and I think everyone should read this. Next one in that series is The Mistake. So one thing I forgot to say is like the whole series, there's like 4 books, and then there's like 4 novellas in one book of them like 3 years later. So there's like this group of 4 hockey players. It's Garrett, John Logan, Dean, and Tucker, and they all live together. So each book is like follows a guy and then like the girl he ends up with, or and so they're all like mentioned throughout each other's books, and I think it's so cute. So this one's about John Logan and Grace, and their meet cute is so funny. Like the way they meet is like perfect, and I loved it. And I just thought it was so funny. It was probably my favorite meet out of all of them. Like the way they met is my favorite. This one probably is the shortest one, I would say. John Logan is just so funny, and Grace, I just love her. She's like iconic. There's a mistake that happens, obviously, and I cannot say too much about this without spoiling it. I did like the deal better, but this one is still really, really good. So if you want to read this series, I highly recommend reading all of it. The next one is The Score. So this one's about Dean and then a girl named Allie. And Allie is actually Hannah from The Deal's roommate. And Dean's like known as like the F-boy of the group, okay? Like the playboy. And then him and Allie start this kind of like friends with benefits situation, but then like they start liking each other. And then this one actually has a really sad part in it. I'm not going to say anything else about it because I don't want to spoil it, but it does have a sad part in it. But I also love this one. I love the whole series, what can I say? And it's just so good. Also, ignore the cover on this one. The Mistake's not that bad. It's just, it looks like a dancer on ice. But this one, we can ignore that too. Buy the new covers, people. The last one before the novellas is called The Goal, and this one's about Tucker and a girl named Sabrina. And this one's like the accidental pregnancy trope, and usually I try to steer away from that. I'm not usually into that, but I was like, oh, I gotta read the whole series, right? Because I got it all at once. Like I got all 5 of them at once. So I read it and I actually enjoyed it. This one was my least favorite out of all of them, but it is not because I didn't like it. That's just like I still liked all of these in this series better than The Chase. And so basically, like, Sabrina has, like, a bad home life. She's just trying to become a lawyer and get out of there and, like, be gone. Also, I just realized you might be able to tell. Ignore that I don't have 2 nails on. They came off last night. And Tucker's, like, a little mama's boy. He's a country boy. And, like, they just, like, hook up once. And then, boom, she's pregnant. And so he, like, is a great guy, right? So he's like, oh, yeah, like, we'll take care of it, blah, blah. And he, like, wants to be with her. And she's like, no, thank you. But it is really good. And this one, I do want to reread it because I feel like I didn't appreciate it enough as I should have. But, and then last but not least in the series is The Legacy. So this one's like I said, 4 different novellas. So like it's each couple. I'm not gonna tell you which couple's which because that would spoil the title. But the first one's called The Pact. It's part 1. And then there is The Proposal. Not gonna tell you what it is. And then part 3 is called, where did it go? Oh yeah. Part 3 is called The Honeymoon. So one of them gets married before this. Last part is called The Legacy. So it's really good. It was a nice way to wrap it all up, but you definitely don't have to read this if you don't want to, but I thought it was a nice way to wrap it all up, and it was a good ending, and to see where they ended up 3 years later. This book, it was this next one. I read it in like April until Friday night, and it was good. I do have the whole series, and it was easy to read, so I'm probably gonna finish it just because like I like to finish things and know what happens with everyone. But it wasn't my favorite. I think I gave it like 2.5 out of 5 stars. So it's like this girl comes to live with her cousin in this small town, and she doesn't talk to anyone because of some things that happened in her past. And she like forms this connection with one of her cousin's friends named West, and she talks to him, and so there's cuteness to it. I just feel like it was a little, I feel like I like things a little bit older now, but I will finish the series just because that's who I am. I have like 4 more, but it was really easy to read, and it was good. Like I could definitely understand why people like this series, and I would say this is really good for like middle school, like early high school age, but I am in college, so it didn't hit. I definitely, like, I know freshman year Caitlin would have been obsessed with this, so definitely read it if you like a little bit of romance, but some cuteness, there's some depth to it. Next books I have, do you like all my stickers? It's mostly Taylor Swift, and then this is Crime Junkies, this one's One Tree Hill, but all the rest are Taylor Swift. Also, ignore my wet hair. I didn't know I was going to be filming this, but then I had nothing to do, so I was like, I'll do it. So these ones are the books that I read. I'll tell you if I read it physical or Kindle, but I left a lot of them in my dorm because my thing is, like, I have like a mini bookshelf, so I'm just gonna like finish it and then take all of them home at once and then like refill it with my books from home. So the first one I read was Normal People by Sally Rooney. I feel like I need to reread it because some people are obsessed with it. I just can't really tell you what happened. Like, I don't remember. And I read it all and like I paid attention. But I just can't really tell you. I mean, I know there's Marianne and Connell, and like she liked him first, and like his mom like cleaned her house, or vice versa. Maybe her mom cleaned it. I think his mom cleaned her house. And it's like he was over there some, they like became friends, and then like there was like some drama because Marianne's like weird. And then like they end up going to the same college, and I don't remember much. I want to watch the TV show and then reread it so I can like visualize it better. But I did think overall, I mean, I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. So I must have liked it, but I don't remember much about it. But that's Normal People. I know some people like love it, so I do want to give it another shot. Another book I read in paperback that I don't have with me is The Rom-Com Agenda by Jane Dinker. Honestly, I was expecting more because it's like called The Rom-Com Agenda, and I was like, oh, that's so cute. So I was expecting to like it more than I did, but I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars, same as the last one. Basically like this boy, he like is doing this makeover to try to win back the girl who rejected his proposal, and then he becomes friends with this girl. I don't remember their names. It didn't stand out. It didn't. But that's okay, because I remember the story. I'm just really bad at remembering names unless it stands out. And so like she works at all the shops like him and his little friend group goes to like remake over him. But she's like trying to save money to leave town because she was home taking care of her sick foster mom. They basically just become friends. They watch rom-coms together so he can see how to treat a girl. And you know, the rest is a rom-com. So it was cute. I remember I was like, oh, like it did get a little boring at some parts, but overall I would say it was good. I read this one on my Kindle during class. It's called Her Last Summer by Melinda Woodhull. Yeah, Woodhull. And honestly, this one shocked me because this was like a $2 one on Kindle. Like, I just needed something to read in class because I was so incredibly bored. But it was so good. Like, the end shocked me. And I liked this one. I will say it was a little confusing at first because there's so many different characters. But then as I remembered, like, who each person was and what they did, I liked it more because then I was like, I get so many different perspectives. And so it was really good. And I gave this one, like, 4 out of 5 stars. But then I read the next one, which was Her Final Fall. I didn't like it as much. I think I gave it, like, 2.5 out of 5 stars. And I can't really remember what happened as much in the final fall. It was photographer or something, and like some girls were dying, and then like one of the main girls' sisters got killed. And I remember it wasn't as good, but then like the first one, it was so good. It was like this famous author got killed, and then it was like this one girl like spotted who it was, and then he like knew she knew, and so like he was going for her and the police was going for it, and the reporter was trying to figure out who it was to report on it. The book I read was The Brothers Hawthorne. I read this in hardcover, but it's at my door. This was not as good as the Inheritance Game series to me, but I still liked it. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I just felt like it could be much shorter. It went almost back and forth between Grayson and Jameson's point of views. So like Jameson and Avery were on this mission with his dad, but then Grayson was on this mission. Well, not really a mission, but like he was with his half-sisters, and they were trying to figure out what happened to their dad. And if you've read the Inheritance Game series, you know. And Grayson didn't want them to find out. And I just felt like it could have been a lot shorter. It was like over 400 pages. But overall, it was good. Like, I liked being back in that world. And I am so excited for The Grandest Game to come out, which is the next one. And the next book I read, a 5 out of 5. I loved it. One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. One of my favorite books I read this year. I just thought it was amazing, and I loved it. It made me cry. It made me mad. I understood the entire thing. I understood her decisions. So there's this girl named Emma, and her husband supposedly dies in a helicopter accident. And what I'm telling you right now is nothing that's a spoiler because it's on the back of the book. So it's going to sound like I'm spoiling it, but I promise I'm not. And then a few years later, she gets engaged to a guy named Sam, who she knew from high school. Well, then her husband, Jesse, comes back. It turns out he'd been living on an island for a few years and he finally made his way back. So then she's stuck with this decision, like, what do? Do you go back to your husband that you married and you were in love with since high school, or do you stay with the new guy? And so the real question she has to decide is, like, who does she want to be? Because she changed a lot after his death. So it's like, does she want to be the girl she was with Jesse or with Sam? And it literally made me so sad, because who she picked at the end wasn't who I was hoping she would pick, but I completely understood it and it made so much sense. And that's why Taylor Jenkins Reid is just amazing. I just love her. And the next book I read by her, well, this is the next book I read. It was Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I was on a kick. I was like, oh, I gotta read this next one I brought. And this one was also so good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So it was about this girl who goes back to her hometown and, like, she goes out for a night. And then it tells 2 different stories through the whole thing. It's one of them's like, does she leave the party with her best friend or does she leave the party with her ex-boyfriend? And oh my gosh, it was amazing. I've never read a book like that. Like, Taylor Jenkins Reid is literally just my favorite and I just love her. I will say the ending in this one is what I was hoping. So that was bonus points. But I thought it was so good. Like, one of them, I can't really tell you what happened at all without spoiling it. So I'm not going to tell you, but it tells 2 different stories. And then at the end, both stories end at the same spot and you find out which one she really chose. So it was next 2 books I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. And I loved A Court of Thorns and Roses. I thought it was so good. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then I read A Court of Mist and Fury and I think I just, like, I remember a lot of it and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. But, like, I feel like I need to refresh myself. So I had 2 free audiobooks on Audible. So I got A Court of Mist and Fury so I can listen to it. And then I also got A Court of Wings and Ruin just in case the same thing happens where, like, I read it and I really like it, but then I want a refresher before I read the next one, because I was kind of done, like, with big books, and so I kind of took a break, and so I don't remember enough, I feel like, to read the next one, so I want to refresh myself, so I'm gonna listen to A Court of Mist and Fury. The next 3 books I read, it was a series. It was Maybe Now, Maybe Not, it was Maybe Someday, Maybe Not, and Maybe Now by Colleen Hoover. Someone recommended this to me and I already had it, so I was like, why the heck not, I'll read it. Was not for me, really. Overall I gave the series 2 stars. I mean, there were cute moments. It was about, like, this girl named Sydney and the boy named Ridge, and he's deaf, but, like, he writes songs, and the thing that I didn't like was there's a little bit of cheating in it, and that's not really for me. And then she, like, moves in with him because she gets cheated on, and then there's more. It's a mess, but it was okay. Like, there were parts where I laughed, there were parts where I was like, no way. And then Maybe Not was it was a novella about the roommates. It was literally pointless. It was just spice, basically, but it was really short. And then the last one is about Ridge's ex-girlfriend, but it still has all of them in it, like, a lot, and I wish it was just about Maggie, his ex-girlfriend, and how she moved on, but it wasn't. And then the ending pissed me off, because I'm gonna say this is a spoiler, so if you're gonna read this, don't listen, but they all 3 couples freaking proposed at the exact same time at, like, a bar. What the heck? Like, oh, I was just so mad. Like, they just, like, the first one proposed and I was like, oh, blah, and then the next one did it and I was like, oh, stop, shut up right now. And then the third one did it and I was like, so I'm not gonna recommend it, but some people might like it. Look up reviews on Goodreads. The book I read paperback that I don't have, that's at my dorm, that was also kind of a letdown for me, was 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. I was expecting it to be so sad, my heart was gonna be broken. I barely cried. Like, and I'm not a huge crier, but, like, One True Love's had me bawling. Well, not bawling, but, like, you know, I was crying. This one didn't really have me cry at all. But basically Poppy and Rune are, like, a couple since, like, they were 8, and then they, like, don't talk for a couple years while Rune's gone, and they come back and, like, he finds out why, and there's, like, this big problem. And so, like, it was almost like, for me, you knew what was coming, like, you knew the ending, and so that then when it happened, it wasn't that sad to me. But I get why some people like it. Like, it was good overall. I also didn't like the nickname Poppy Man, or maybe I would have liked it better if he didn't say it, like, every single sentence, but that's besides the point. In December, I read 'Tis the Season for Revenge by Morgan Elizabeth. I thought this was funny, fast-paced, iconic. Like, It was good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was a funny little Christmas holiday romance. Basically, the main girl has a crappy boyfriend and he breaks up with her because she's too immature, basically like too girly too. Like, excuse me, go watch Barbie. And so she decides to get revenge on him by dating his boss because she wants to get invited to this Christmas party he never took her to. And they've been dating for like 4 years. And then her and the boss matched and she was like, oh, this is my chance. But I thought it was funny and good, and I would recommend it for an easy Christmas funny book. And I read my favorite Christmas book ever, The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score. I loved it. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, I think. 5 out of 5. So good. One of my favorite books I read this year. The main girl owns like she hosts a reality show, and like she goes to fix up this small town, and this boy named Noah who like works for the town is like, no, we don't want you here, like we don't want your cameras. She's like, too bad. So she kind of like goes behind his back to get people to want her there. And then they like form this little connection, and it's just so cute. And if you read it, or if you have read it, my favorite scene is like when it's snowy and like they're all playing. If you know, you know. And so I just thought it was amazing and so funny and so cute. The last book I read on my Kindle was Same Time Next Year by Tessa Bailey. I did not like it at all. 1 star, and that's generous. Like, it seemed like she didn't do any research for this. The good thing was it was a novella, so it's quick and easy, but basically it's like marriage of convenience, so that way he can stay in the US to play hockey, even though there's hockey teams in Canada. National Hockey League is in Canada as well, so even I know that. But I googled to make sure before I said that because I didn't want to sound stupid. And so I just didn't really like it. It wasn't for me. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So that's all the books I either don't have or on my Kindle. So now we're gonna go to this stack. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the last stack of books I read this year. So this was a reread, but I read this first series in like 2020 or something. But it was The Summer I Turned Pretty. This isn't the copy I read because I actually did annotate it because like it was my first time annotating, and I was like, I want to do it on a book like I know, like I feel like I know it's like the back of my hand. Everyone's basically heard of this or seen the show, so I'm not going to talk much about this one, but if you've seen it, you probably love it. This was the first book that I read in college. I saved this to read like right when the movie came out, but it was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I liked it. It was good. It was cute. It was too long. It could have been shorter. It could have been, but I did like it overall. So this is like the son of the president of the USA, and then this is like the Prince of England, and then they like hate each other, but they have to like work together because they caused a scandal, and they have to act like they like each other, and then they actually do become friends, and then they become lovers, and then there's issues because how the heck is the first son of the US gonna date the Prince of England without there being problems? So it was good, and I don't really know much about politics, but I felt like I understood this good. So Red, White, and Royal Blue, and there's a movie. That's always a plus. One True Loves also has a movie, and they did really good with it, I will say. But yeah, this is pretty good. Easy to read, rom-com. I just think it was too long. I read this over summer. This was Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy. I remember liking it, but I don't remember much about it now. I know like he's kind of like the bad boy, but he's not really bad. They just portray him like that. And she's like dating like the perfect boy from her college, and he like lives in the college town. So he doesn't like the college kids. He just likes the locals. And then they like meet and they become friends, and her boyfriend and him had beef. And yeah, I mean, overall it was good. It was a good, easy summer read. But another book I read this summer was Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch, and this was so cute. Like, this was about this girl named Lena who goes to live in Italy with her father, who she doesn't really have much of a relationship with because he lives in Italy. And her mom, I think it was like her mom passed away, so that's why she went over there. Could be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong though. And then she meets a boy named Ren, and they just form this little friendship, and then a little bit of romance, and it's in Italy, so it's cute. And like he's kind of like her tour guide, like he shows her around, and then like it was also so sweet to see her and her dad form more of a relationship. And then she found like cookbooks, or not cookbooks, she found like notebooks and like journals from her mom, and so she like got to read through those while she was there, because I think it was like her mom and her dad met in Italy, I think. But overall, I would recommend this. This was a cute summer read. I am gonna read the next ones. They're called Love and Luck and Love and Olives, and I'm pretty sure one of them, I don't know which, is about the main girl Lena's best friend from home. So this was super cute. And then my favorite summer book I read this year was The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walter. I loved this. I thought it was perfect. I thought it was like the perfect amount of rom and romance and comedy. Perfect amount of both. And they play this game called Assassins, which is like you shoot each other with water guns and like get people out, and it's fun. I've played it like at my church every spring trip we go on. Main girl Meredith, her sister passed away, and so like this is her first time going back to Martha's Vineyard without her sister. Friends for like a big family wedding, and then she meets a boy on like the groom's side, and his name is Whit. I'm like, they form like a little alliance for the game Assassins, and then like they just start liking each other, and it's just so cute, and I really want to read it again this summer because I really liked it. I also gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. And then one of the Christmas books I read this year was Love Like Farms by B.K. Borison. This was pretty good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's basically like these best friends like fake date, because she signed up for a contest to win money for her Christmas tree farm, but she put that she owned it with her boyfriend or something. I don't remember exactly what. And so he fills in. It's cute, little friends to lovers, small town. So I would recommend this. And then this one was The 12 Dates of Christmas. I didn't like it as much. It was also friends to lovers in a small town. But to me, there's only 12 chapters because it's one for each date. But I thought it was good overall. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So she signs up to go on like 12 dates for Christmas. Some of them are funny, some of them are bad, some of them are good. And then this is her best friend, well, one of her best friends. And, you know, friends to lovers. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. But I did think it was a little bit slow and a little boring, but overall I liked it. Like, if somebody wanted a cozy, comfy Christmas read, I would recommend this. This was my least favorite book I read this year. It was Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. I don't even want to talk about it. I didn't like it. 0 stars. I couldn't tell you anything about it. It put me in the biggest reading slump. I read it. It took me a month to read, and I didn't read for a month after. That's all I'm gonna say. And then in October, I read Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell, and I liked it. It was creepy, but I did figure out I did figure out the bad part, like who the bad person was basically. And so that's why I only gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars, because I figured it out, and if I can figure it out, then I like it less. I like to be like completely shocked. But overall it was good, and I would recommend it for like a creepy, eerie kind of like, ooh, like. But a little girl goes missing. Well, not little, she's like a teenager, but she goes missing. Her mom basically spends her whole life looking for it. It kind of like destroys their family almost. But then her mom's at a cafe like, what, 10 years later, I think? Yeah, 10 years. And she meets this guy because her and her husband divorced like after the girl went missing. And she meets this guy, and then like they start liking each other, and she goes to his house and like meets his family. His daughter looks exactly like her missing daughter, but like younger. So like it couldn't be her. So then like it tells you like that side, but then it also goes back and forth, and it's like the daughter's point of view before, like while she's missing. And so it was good, and it was creepy, and it was perfect to read in like October, so I would recommend this. The last 3 books that I read this year was the Inheritance Games series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So the first one is the Inheritance Games, and I literally couldn't wait for them to come out in paperback, because I read this and I was like, I have to read the next ones. And this was so good. I gave this whole series 5 out of 5. So a girl named Avery like randomly gets inherited billions of dollars from this guy she doesn't even know. The only catch is she has to live in the mansion with his family. So there's like 4 grandsons, and one of the grandsons thinks that she's like a con woman. He wants to figure out why the heck she's there. He doesn't like her. And then one of them's like, oh, she's a puzzle from our grandpa, because he used to give him puzzles and mysteries and like riddles to solve all the time. So that's what he thinks she is. It's like his last puzzle. And so it was really good. And then like secrets come out, and there's so many secrets. And honestly, like the whole series, just like I just kept being shocked. I was like, no way, no way. And maybe I'm just not smart and couldn't figure it out, because maybe some people figured it out, but I sure didn't. So I thought this was so good. And then the next one is The Hawthorne Legacy, which is literally a continuation. I can't say much about the next 2 without spoiling it, so I'm not going to. I'm just gonna say, read the first one, and it just continues. The story keeps getting deeper, the secrets keep coming out, and then the same thing with The Final Gambit. And it wraps it up in a little bow. It leads up perfectly to the new book coming out called The Grandest Game, and it's like Avery creates like this game where people are going to come compete, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it was so good. So that is all the books that I read in 2023. I had a great reading year, and I'm already off to a great start this year, and I just love reading. It's so fun to me, and I hope that if you read any of these, you enjoy them. And if you have read any, let me know what you thought. And then if you haven't read any of them, tell me what your favorite book of 2023 was. And if I haven't read it, I'll put it on my TBR.